All right. How's it going, everybody? How we doing? Hello, hello. You guys cannot see me today. As we said before we went live, I am the voice from above. So, guys, we have an awesome show for us today. We have Leia and B here to talk today about current themes in telehealth and parenting expectations. So, for those of you who don't know who you guys are, I'll let you introduce yourselves and then we'll get on with the show.
Talk a little bit more about what to do and how to avoid some of the pitfalls. So
Absolutely. Yeah. B, I don't know about you. So both B and I are doing teletherapy right now. As you can see, my home is literally behind me. And this is such a transition. I've done some telehealth before, but it was in a hospital setting. So I still had my office and I felt like very professional still. And it's bizarre for me to have this transition so sudden into doing teletherapy. B and I were just talking about even thinking about what are the things behind us or the moments in which my dog is going to make noise and interrupt, and also this idea of, man, some of the stuff my clients are going through right now, I am too. Like, I've certainly felt this emotional change for myself and the ups and downs, and like the feeling of uncertainty, and then what do I do with that, and feeling lonely. And so there's a lot of themes that are coming up in my therapy work that feels also like kind of personal. So this is an interesting time when you said like you're like, I don't know, I'm not an expert with my own kids. I'm like, I don't know if I'm an expert in my own mental health, but we're still here to support and navigate, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that you brought up the telehealth, and our clients don't necessarily get a view into our lives, and they don't get a view into our personal. I mean, I go into homes, so I'm constantly in someone's business. So, I'm very comfortable in that setting, but this has brought them into my space and my domain and into, my sanctuary, quote unquote. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit different figuring out, okay, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what to show, what not to show, and also just keeping my kids away, because being at home working, it's very different than when you physically leave your space and you go off and you go
Mhm.
do your own thing. But like, my children are constantly like peeking their little head and they're like, can we see who you're talking to? And I'm like, no, it's against HIPAA violation. No, you can't.
Right.
You can't see who I'm speaking. Go away.
Yeah. I can
You
only
know?
imagine really you're balancing mom role and you're balancing therapist role, right? And
Absolutely. Like,
yeah.
you're constantly trying to figure out, okay, I'm working, but I'm at home. And that's one of the things that I'm seeing a lot with my parents is the whole, they're working, but now
Mhm.
their kids are home and they still have to do these homeschooling things. So it's just been a transition
Yeah.
for, I think, everyone. Like, no one expected it to last this long or to even look like this. So the
Mhm.
transition for us, our field, I mean, the medical field, everyone else that's just out there doing their thing, like, it's just been this huge transition. And I think we all should give each other some grace and just understand that we're all humans, we're all on this together, hashtag humanity. And
Mhm.
we're all trying to figure it out together. No one really, we don't have it figured out. We're like all figuring out all together. But I think what is this? I think week 4 or 5.
I've dissociated. I don't remember. Like, I think week 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
feel like now I'm starting to finally get like an understanding, especially like
Mhm.
with, my work schedule and my kids' schedule, but it's taken a while. Like, how about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I've lost track of time. I think it's interesting because I think the patterns I'm observing in clients,
Mhm.
and has actually been similar in myself. So, like the first week or two, it was just wrapping our heads around what this is going to look like,
Mhm.
setting up our workspaces. I know so many people are like, yeah, I now my kitchen table, like me, is now my desk. And just wrapping our heads around like what it feels like to feel this fear, what it feels like to be flooded by the news. And we're constantly like watching it and engaged and wanting to learn, and yet also feeling this emotional drain. And I was really noticing that in myself. So I had a lot of conversations of, okay, like, what is it that you also need for yourself, but for your
Mhm.
kids, like the scheduling? And it just makes me think about what we expect and what we see as clinicians in adjustment periods,
Mhm.
right? Adjustment periods tend to have moments of fear and anxiety. I've been talking to a lot of parents about their expectations for themselves
Mhm.
and even like what they want to give to their children. They want to give to their children all the stability and the best education they can, and still home cooked meals and still manage their day jobs. And I'm like, whoa, when would we ever find a manual that taught us how to get through a pandemic? Like,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Like, I didn't grow up with this training, right? Like, in terms of
No.
how do we get through this time? So I was noticing that in myself as well as clients of this adjustment period. The past couple of weeks, it seems like there's maybe a little more settling
Mhm.
for individuals. Yet I'm also noticing that there's a little bit more of a depressed mood in some of the themes of my clients. Like, we're starting to feel really the effects of that solitude. Even though this isn't social isolation, we are feeling more disconnected.
Mhm.
The energy and the busyness of what do I do is now the energy of I really miss what I had. And so it's a
Mhm.
kind of grief that I'm noticing. I don't know. I wonder if you're observing that in any of your work, B, or just,
I
we're talking.
am.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm noticing, especially for people who don't necessarily know their personality type, like especially
Mm,
if they think they're extroverts but they're really introverts, or if they're introverts but they're really extroverts. What I'm noticing is that, and it's funny because my husband and I were having this discussion earlier today. He's an introvert. I'm an extrovert. But I require, like, my home is my sanctuary. So when I am at home, I am at peace, because like I'm and about, and I'm in faces and things like that. So when I am out there, I get all my energy. So when I come in, I'm fine. He's the opposite. He gets his energy from out. I mean, he likes to be inside. So when he's out, like, it takes a lot of energy for him to be out in public and do a lot of things, but he
mhm.
likes being out. He doesn't
Yeah.
mind being out. So having to work from home for 4 weeks, he thought initially, oh, this would be great. I get to
Right.
be home. But
Yeah.
then he's missing the energy of people, and he's missing the interaction of individuals, and just kind of like that schedule, the routine, the consistency of it all. So people are noticing, like, I guess I really don't like what I thought I liked. And I guess I really do like what I thought I didn't like. Just kind of like wrapping their heads around that. It's been an interesting kind of like aha moment for people. Like, I didn't realize that I was this way, and I didn't realize how much I would miss this thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. The time of self reflection. We're talking about connection with ourselves too. And it's so funny you brought up the introversion and extroversion thing because I've been reflecting on that a lot for myself. And
Yeah.
I've always thought I was an extrovert. And then, like, for a while, I went to ambivert, which is kind of a mix between the two. And I can
Hmm.
get energy both alone and with other people. And just this past couple of weeks, I've been actually kind of like okay on my own.
Yeah.
I miss my people,
Right.
but it just struck me. I was like, am I more of an introvert?
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friend about this, and she's known me for like 10 years. She's like, yeah, Leia, I knew this.
It's a good time for self-discovery and self-reflection,
Yes.
where
Mhm.
we have like these group mommy texts going on, and we're trying to figure out how to have these virtual play dates through whatever, and these different
Mhm.
things. And I'm like, I'm not struggling. Like, I'm okay. Like, I am
Mhm.
enjoying this time. I'm enjoying just I'm enjoying being around my kids a little bit longer, but I'm not as impacted, mentally as I see others.
Yeah.
And I think I thought it would have been the opposite because I'm always out and I'm, out and about and around people where I'm like, no, this is just, I don't know. I guess it's just time for me to just get all the energy that I do need. Now, I don't know how this will look if we're 6 weeks into this. Uh,
Right.
but for
Yeah.
now, I'm discovering that okay, it's not that bad for me.
Mhm.
For me.
Which I think that brings up opportunity. So yours, I'm so, first of all, I'm so glad to hear that it's not so bad for you, right? That you are able to enjoy and embrace this time. I think it's been a little bit of like waves for me, like it comes and goes. I've had
Hmm.
some significant like work adjustments and things like
Hmm.
that, worry for my family. And so um I think it's also a time where I've seen so many messages, and I understand this, like, this is a time for resilience and motivation and committing ourselves to the things that we don't otherwise do. And initially, I even found myself trapped in this mindset of, okay, well, I have free time. Let me do all
Right, you
these
had to
things,
do something.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was noticing some individuals who were feeling more down or feeling like less stable in this transition then even go into this mindset of like, is there something wrong with me? Like, I just want to rest. I just need
Right,
to nurture myself.
right.
And so I really want to emphasize this idea of wherever space we're in, that's maybe just the space we need to be
Yeah,
in.
that's where you
Right.
need to be. Hmm.
Yeah, right. Like there's no right or wrong. If you're not conquering the world right now, that's okay. That
Right.
we are all just doing the best that we can. And as you said the word earlier, grace, to give ourselves that self
Hmm.
compassion and
Hmm.
really listening to that, we're not less than because we're not like optimizing this time or being a superhuman.
Right. One of the things this actually brings up a good point where when we first went into this, some of the things that I kept seeing was create a schedule, create a schedule. Here's a schedule. Here's a template. There's a schedule. Here's a schedule for your kids. And I am the schedule
Mhm,
lady. That is my
mhm.
thing. That's my playground. I love schedules. But as a parent, that is so overwhelming,
Yeah.
because the transition from you know not being a teacher to now being your child's educator and their
Mhm.
parent and navigating this whole online school thing that's going on that most well all the parents I've spoken to so far, they don't have a handle on it, like they're
Mhm.
under trying to navigate it themselves. And even me personally, I mean, second grade math is just doing me in. I have no idea what it's about.
Right.
I'm carrying twos shouldn't be carried anymore. I'm
Mm-mm,
failing, I'm
mm-mm.
failing badly. And it's a shame to say as someone with an advanced degree, but you know what? Second grade has changed. They've made it harder.
Right.
They've made it
There's
harder.
this common core thing, like, yeah, right. Mhm, mhm.
I have no idea what's going on. So like just as a parent myself, just feeling this, okay, now I have to learn new math, like
Mhm.
because the math that I grew up with, which was fine by the way, whoever decided to change math, um,
Right.
the math I grew up with is no longer relevant.
Mhm.
We have to learn new math. And so you have that piece going on. Then you have your work schedule, as a parent. Like most of my parents are still working. They're working from home, but they're not taking a vacation, from work, which is great, for them, but it's still an additional thing that they're adding to their list of things to
Yeah,
do. So they're working from home, they're learning new math, they're trying to figure out how to keep kids off electronics, like all these different things that's happening.
right.
And it's just hard.
Yeah, right. So be a couple of themes I've heard from families are, okay, I want my kid to focus in school, exercise, be off the phones, maintain a normal sleep schedule, eat all the right foods, not go out and see your friends. Like, too, right? Like I feel overwhelmed when I hear that myself, and I'm like, I am not a teenager right now. And so I know the teens that I'm working with are really struggling with not feeling like they have a lot of choice in their day. There
Hmm.
are some family arguments and expectations there. And then I can really empathize with the parents
Hmm.
because they just want the best for their kids. And they're trying to figure out like there are all these areas of life and wellness, and how do we help nurture that in a
Hmm.
way that's going to buffer the mental health effects of the teenager. So, B, as you were talking about scheduling and thinking about all these different domains of life and structure, and what are you recommending to the parents that you're working with? I know you work with a bit of a younger population than I tend to work
I
with,
do. I mean,
right? But
yeah.
yeah, but still thematically, I think we're seeing similar things. So, how do you recommend that?
Well, what I'm recommending to my parents, and I do actually go all the way up to high school, like,
Do you?
yeah.
Okay.
But
Hmm.
I recommend basically, I said, you can't have a 6 to 8 hour school day with your kids. That is not realistic. And you can't expect that. Some schools do have scheduled like sit-in time or meet and greet time with teachers. So you do have to meet those times. But if you can schedule 2 hour schoolwork and then a break and then an hour break outside or something like that and then go back to 2 hours, just depending on the grade. I mean, if you're thinking about like elementary age, you can dedicate 3 to 4 hours of schoolwork. Those grades above, you can do a little bit more, but it's
Hmm.
not the whole day. You don't have to wake up
Hmm.
at 7 o'clock to start schoolwork and then end the
Right.
day at 3. Like, it's not school. You
Hmm.
have to put breaks in between. They have to go outside in between, outside in their home, but
You're
be
right.
outside,
Right.
outside but home. Just kind of give them a little bit sense of normalcy. The weather's been beautiful. I mean,
Yes.
it's just
It's like
been,
a saving grace.
yes, it's just been
Hmm.
cooperating really well. So,
Yeah.
create a schedule that's going to work for your family, but also you have to do your work, like you have to put in your work and your things that you have to do in between. One of the things that I did personally for me, I said, well, I'm not going to go to the grocery store every week. Obviously not. I've been twice since this whole thing has happened.
Mhm.
And I said, I will just buy a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables because my kids are going to be home, especially my son. He's going to be eating everything. And just so I'm not worried about it, like I'm not going to get upset if he's on his 10th apple. Like, it's going to expire anyway. Eat the apple. So like if
Yeah.
you wanted to try and create that balance of, making sure they're eating well, overindulge in vegetables and fruits so that there's an excess. Believe me, after a while, they will go to it. So you're
Mhm.
not worried about one additional thing and trying to figure out how to man the pantry so that your kids aren't eating really badly. But give
Mhm.
yourself some grace. Schoolwork is 2 to 4 hours. Some kids may require more, some kids may require less. We're all figuring this out together. The schools are trying to figure it out with us. So no one has it perfected down yet. Just, give
Mhm.
yourself time to figure it out.
Yeah, no. Well, and I've even heard a couple of parents say they feel like failures because like they're not sticking to the schedule, or they are wanting, like we tend to want control when we feel a worry. And so
Mm-hmm.
they are so rigidly sticking to the schedule that the teen is then getting really upset. So for example, I was working with somebody and they mentioned that they were coloring, and that the next, like it was on the half hour and it was supposed to be workout time. And, the team was coloring and doing
Right.
something, right? Like if that was enjoyable and felt good for the teen. And it's about just
Continue.
how do we have some just flexibility around this too? This, because there's no set rule here. It doesn't mean
Mm-mm.
that the teen is going to completely neglect the physical. Even if sleep schedules are a little bit more off, as long as they're getting like that 7 to 8 consistent hours of
Mm-hmm.
sleep, they're still doing their schoolwork. I'm in a space of saying, okay, this isn't a normal school schedule. And so if that helps your teen also feel like they have choice and control, and they want to be up doing something enjoyable, that could be good for their mental health and status too.
Yeah, I think that's great for their mental health. Like if
Mhm.
they're so
Yeah.
engaged in coloring, especially if it's like
Yeah,
mindfulness coloring or whatever it may be, it doesn't
exactly.
really matter. Or art project, like if they're that engaged into it, allow them to just do that. Like just to think about the idea of your senior year being canceled, you know, like
Totally.
prom canceled, graduation, like whatever is supposed to happen is not going to happen. That was
Mhm.
such an impactful time. I mean, really, I don't think
Yeah.
was another graduation as impactful as your high school graduation. Just the memories, you know, you maybe had 6 to 8 years with some of these people, depending if you moved around or not. So just you're not going to get that in another, you know, time frame. So that they're losing out on that. So we have
Mhm.
to be as parents, you know, we have to be mindful and go, they're losing out on something, you know, and it may be insignificant to us as adults because we've already passed that, we've already experienced it, we've already gone past it. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's not significant or important or that it's not a huge loss to these
Absolutely.
kids. So my heart goes out to all the seniors, you know, all the college,
100%.
yeah, like the everyone that's not getting the experience of being young, you know,
Yeah.
and all the things that happens.
Right. I've also seen even like so prom athletes, they miss their teams, like they are missing so much. And so this is coming up for me with a couple of my families of a concern about screen time and just like the teens being in their phone all the time.
Right.
And also that a standard punishment tends to be restricting screen time or taking away a
Right.
phone.
Right.
And so it's this balance. And so it's like, oh my gosh, how, what other ways do we have to shape behavior? So I'm having a
Mhm.
lot of conversations with parents about that
Yeah.
maybe it's okay, the phone is taken away, but they can still talk to a friend on the phone or
Right.
talk to them on the parent's phone.
Right.
Or are there extra chores that they could do in the house?
Right.
And it's, we're not necessarily taking away the phone. Are there like random acts of kindness? Like there's other ways that we can shape behavior too.
Right.
I think it's sometimes challenging though for parents to think about that because they know that their teens love that phone.
They do.
Right? Yeah. Mhm.
I love my phone, but I mean,
Sure.
you know, I do tell parents this that the phone isn't you. Like your child, your teenager is still a child. They still want to spend time with you. So if you're
Yes.
going to take one thing away, you need to increase your time with them because you're not
Totally.
punishing them, but you're making it more impactful and more meaningful. Like if you're going to say you can't be on social media all day, well, now I'm bored. You know, what am I
Yes.
supposed to do? Take that time to get to know your kid, you know, get to know their interests and their lives. What are they looking on social media all day? You know, what's the newest fad that they're into? You know, what's
Yeah.
the newest craze? Like get in, you know, get involved in your child's life or be on social media with them. Like I've seen a lot of these TikTok videos, which I think are
Uh-huh.
hilarious, you know, especially if their
Yeah.
parents involved. I'm like, get involved with your child. Like this is an opportunity that you can get to know them, meet
Mhm.
them, learn about them, you know, see what their anxiety, they're anxious about this time too. Like, you know, we're anxious, but imagine a child not having any say so, any idea, like just no amount of resources that we can give them
Mhm.
to say, oh, here's what we've experienced in the past. So here's the playbook, you
Yeah.
know, like they don't have that. So, you know, get to know them from, you know, who they are, what they're anxious about, but have them spend more time with you, not as a punishment, but as a reward. And naturally, they will
Yes.
start to not want to be on the phone. You know, my kids are young. So naturally, they're always around me because they want to be. But I know that's a luxury that will not always be, but I can cater those relationships and do things with them so that when they get older, they still want to be around us and be involved so we're part of their lives. Teenagers aren't any different. They're just a little
Mhm.
smellier. Like that's really
Yeah. Right. Right.
that's just it. They're just a little
Exactly.
smellier.
Their emotions are a little more intense sometimes,
Yeah.
or the way that they use their words. However, like I've had several teens saying, I actually haven't minded my time with my parents.
No.
Awesome. Play board games, go out to the bonfire, watch, let's see here, like there are several live cameras of like zoos. There's so much creatively out there.
Hmm.
So I love that piece of thinking about what we can do to enhance our time together and to really make connection in family.
Yeah.
Um, So the other piece I was thinking about is also shared meaning. That's how I think of
Hmm.
family work too. Oftentimes, like, what are we all working together
Hmm.
to try to achieve? It's security, it's safety, connection, and love. And so that quality time, getting to know your team, I think really nicely aligns. So
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
So I would say, just to kind of like sum up, don't don't start a project that you wouldn't have necessarily start. I love gardening, and because I have been, social distancing, and I have not been able to go to where I typically go to grab my gardening things and start that process. I basically I planted lemons from lemons I already had here, seeds. I'm interested to see how this works out
Right.
because I've never planted from food. I
You know,
just
you're gonna have a farm by this point. Like you're gonna have, that's great. I
I'm really
love it.
interested to see, but I've been doing it with my kids,
Absolutely.
and I've always gardened with them. So, but this has been more. They've been involved more so than they've ever have in the past. So take that time to get to know your children, get to know your spouse again. I really like my husband. Like I'm like
That's good.
after 18 years, you're okay.
That's
You're
beautiful. That's
you
yeah,
and
right?
we've learned the balance of from 9 to 5 he stays in this corner of the world so that our worlds don't
Mhm.
interchange because he was micromanaging some things and it wasn't working out, but we figured it out. Like we worked it out. Yeah.
Quality connection time. Absolutely. Yeah.
you
No, I
you
love
know
it.
so
This
things
is,
like
yeah,
that, like use that time
absolutely.
for those things and don't start a new, don't build a shed in the backyard. Like it's not necessary.
Right, right. Unless you feel the energy to do it, I guess, right? But absolutely, that it's going to look different for every family. So it's not going to help to do that comparison or
Hmm.
necessarily say, like, these are the goals and then beat ourselves up. To have that compassion with yourself, that this is really a time that how do you want to look back on it? And if
Yeah.
it's time that you've connected with your family and your children, it's one of the most important things in our lives.
You don't
So,
get that back. You don't get it back. You can build a shed, but you will not get that time back that you were building with your child. So yeah, you don't
absolutely.
get it back. So make the
Yes.
most of it with your family.
So we are wrapping up with our time today. Overall, there's a lot of wonderful resources out there for mental health. I think about the resources that we've been posting on Psych Bites and Shrink Tank.
Hmm.
Just generally speaking, connection, love, support, like really living authentically to the things that are most important to us, our
Hmm.
values.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of other supports, many therapists are providing teletherapy right now, right?
Yes.
As we spoke about at the beginning of our talk.
Yes.
For me, it's been a pretty natural transition. It's actually kind of been fun at times. Like teens are showing me around their rooms, or they're showing me things that bring them a lot of joy in their home. I've done mindfulness exercises with the teen holding their puppy. Like,
I
so,
like that.
right? I think I was just really distracted by the puppy. And so I wanted to focus on that. But, anyways, so it's a time in which we've been, I think, able to also be creative in therapy.
Hmm.
And we just invite you that those services are also there.
Always. Hmm.
Right. And anything that you'd like to add, B, as we're wrapping
No,
it up.
I think you did well. I mean, as far as just letting it others know that, we are here, we're available. You can reach out to us. I know everyone at Southeast Psych is offering telehealth as far as, as an
Mhm.
outlet for, those of us who are struggling a little bit more so. If you need parenting support, I'm here. If your team needs support, Leia's here. If you need support, Leia's also here. Whatever
Yes,
that
yes.
whatever that you need, just seek it out because this is tough times and we're again getting through this together, so we're all in this together. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
It was really nice talking to you today, B. It's been a
Yeah.
minute, like not being in the office. So I've
I
really
know.
missed this. So it was lovely.
This
So
was I was secretly hoping that your dog would like get up at any moment, so I've been like waiting, like wake
yeah,
up.
no, she's like always passed out. Like that's her
Oh.
constant state. So yeah.
I got to see her, so I'm okay.
Exactly. Yep. All right, everyone. Well, take care. Go outside, be together, and just wellness to you.
Bye,
All
you
right. Bye,
guys.
everyone.